What would you do if a fake cop slammed your daughter face first onto burning concrete, then pressed a gun barrel against her neck? All because she drove through the wrong HOA neighborhood. My blood boiled as I watched this horrifying scene unfold through security cameras. My daughter's life was threatened over a meaningless rule. But fate had a twisted irony in store when this aggressive bully had no idea the young woman he was threatening wasn't an ordinary person. My daughter had endured challenges most men wouldn't dare dream of. She had been trained to face situations far worse than an amateur neighborhood security guard trying to act important. When people who think they have absolute power choose the wrong victim, they have no idea their lives are about to change forever. Within 3 hours, a simple birthday party transformed into the perfect trap for a bully and the seed for an HOA reform movement across the entire state. I never thought my birthday would involve taking down a corrupt HOA empire. But life has a funny way of delivering unexpected gifts. It all started on a sunny Thursday afternoon when my daughter Emily was driving through Pine Valley, an upscale neighborhood adjacent to our Evergreen Estates community. She was out picking up supplies for my surprise birthday party, a detail I wouldn't learn until much later. The timing couldn't have been worse or perhaps better, depending on how you look at the absolute chaos that followed. I'm Jack Reynolds, 45 years old, former Army Ranger with 18 years of service under my belt. These days, I run a small security consulting firm helping businesses protect their assets. After 2 tours in Afghanistan and the scars, both visible and invisible, that came with them, I found peace in rebuilding my relationship with my daughter following my divorce. Those early years weren't easy. I was deployed more often than I was home, missing birthdays, school plays, and those precious moments that shape a childhood. By the time Emily hit her teens, we were practically strangers. It took years of intentional effort, camping trips, long talks, and honest confrontations about my absence to rebuild what we'd lost. That's why what happened that day hit me so hard. Nobody threatens my family, especially not after I fought so hard to earn my place in it. Emily had followed in my footsteps but chose the Navy instead. At 22, she'd already made history as the youngest SEAL instructor in naval history, breaking through countless gender barriers with her exceptional skills and unwavering determination. The military wasn't an easy path for her. From day one, she faced an uphill battle. Instructors who demanded more, colleagues who expected less, and a system that wasn't designed with women in mind. But Emily has always had this quiet, unshakable strength. Where I would have bulldozed through obstacles, she calculated, adapted, and overcame them with a precision that left even the most skeptical commanders impressed. Couldn't have been prouder. Emily was driving her modest sedan through Pine Valley, carefully maintaining 25 miles per hour in a 30 miles per hour zone, when a black SUV with flashing lights suddenly cut her off. A burly man with a military-style haircut and a uniform that closely resembled police attire stepped out, approaching her window with an unearned swagger and hand resting on his holstered weapon. This was Robert Bob Arison, 42, former police officer discharged for abuse of power, now head of security for Pine Valley HOA. He carried a gun and wore a police-like uniform to compensate for his failed law enforcement career, feeding his desperate need for authority and respect. What we would later discover was that Bob had been building this facade for years, creating an elaborate illusion of authority in this wealthy enclave where residents were too busy or too intimidated to question his increasingly aggressive security measures. License and registration, Bob demanded, not bothering with any greeting or explanation for the stop. Emily, calm but assertive from years of military training, asked the question that would set everything in motion. "May I see your badge first, officer?" Bob's face twitched slightly, a micro-expression of annoyance that Emily's trained eye caught immediately. "I'm security for Pine Valley." "You were speeding through a residential area," he stated firmly, despite the fact that Emily's speedometer clearly showed she was under the limit. When Emily politely, but firmly, insisted on seeing official identification before providing her documents, Bob's demeanor changed dramatically. His breathing quickened, pupils dilated, and a thin sheen of sweat appeared on his forehead. All signs of extreme stress and loss of control that Emily recognized from training unstable recruits. "I don't need to show you anything. This is private property, and I'm authorized to enforce the rules here." Bob's voice rose as his hand moved closer to his weapon. Emily remained composed, her military training kicking in as she assessed the increasingly dangerous situation. "Sir, if you're a law enforcement officer, I need to seek proper identification. If not, you have no authority to demand my documents," she explained in the calm, commanding voice she used with SEAL trainees during crisis simulations. This controlled response, too confident, too measured, only agitated Bob further. In his world, people cowered at his uniform, at his tone. They didn't question or challenge. They certainly didn't maintain eye contact with such unflappable composure. Emily's refusal to be intimidated was a direct assault on the fragile authority he'd constructed. In one quick motion, he unholstered his gun and pointed it directly at Emily. "Hands on the wheel. Hands on the wheel now," he shouted, his finger trembling near the trigger. Emily didn't panic, but recognized the gravity of the situation. She'd faced similar scenarios in training and knew an undisciplined, emotionally volatile person with a weapon was far more dangerous than a disciplined enemy. She placed her hands on the wheel, her calm eyes assessing Bob. His rapid breathing, dilated pupils, and sweat-soaked forehead all signaled extreme stress and lack of control. Her mind raced through her options. She could disarm him. She knew at least 7 ways to do so from this position, but a struggle could end with an accidental discharge. She could identify herself immediately as military personnel, but his agitated state suggested that might only escalate the situation further. Instead, she chose the path of least resistance, temporary compliance while gathering intelligence. "Out of the car, on the ground now," he barked. Emily complied, but discreetly positioned her phone to record and photograph Bob, a reflex she'd learned from me. Always gather evidence before taking action. While face down on the pavement, Emily listened as Bob rummaged through her car, finding her military ID and SEAL instructor badge. Instead of concern, he scoffed. "Fake credentials. A girl like you couldn't possibly be a SEAL." It was a dismissal Emily had heard throughout her career, people underestimating her because of her gender. Despite her exceptional achievements, she had earned her position through grueling training that had broken many men. She had carried the same loads, run the same distances, endured the same sleep deprivation, and consistently scored in the top percentiles of her classes. Yet, here was another man looking at her and seeing nothing but her gender, dismissing years of sacrifice and achievement with casual contempt. Bob confiscated her phone, handcuffed her, and roughly pushed her into his SUV. "I'm taking you to the HOA office. Plenty of people will be interested in meeting a fake SEAL," he sneered. Emily, now in the vehicle, quickly noted the absence of police radio equipment or official badges, confirmation this was no real law enforcement officer. She silently memorized their route, marking every turn in her mind, a basic survival skill from her training. "You have no idea who you're messing with," Emily said quietly. Not as a threat, but as a simple statement of fact. "Oh, I know exactly. Some smartass kid who needs to learn about the rules in Pine Valley," Bob replied, completely unaware of the storm he had just unleashed. His eyes met Emily's in the rearview mirror, and for a split second, he saw something that made him uneasy. Not fear or anger, but a calculating patience that seemed oddly out of place. It was the look of someone assessing weaknesses, identifying vulnerabilities, planning moves and counter-moves. But the moment passed and Bob dismissed the flash of uncertainty. After all, he had the gun, the badge, and the power. What could one handcuffed woman possibly do against that? The HOA office of Pine Valley was an unnecessarily lavish building equipped with surveillance screens and security equipment that seemed excessive for a residential community. The marble floors and designer furniture spoke to the inflated HOA fees that residents paid, most unaware that a significant portion was being funneled into private accounts. As Bob marched Emily through the front door, she was brought before Diane Wilkins, the 58-year-old HOA president, a woman with perfect hair, expensive clothing, and cold, calculating eyes. Diane was once a successful corporate lawyer forced into early retirement after a lawsuit who now ran the HOA to maintain her sense of power and control.